October 21st, 2021, Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Facebook, introduced a platform rebrand. The company would change its name to Meta. This was supposedly to further their ideals of connecting people in a so-called metaverse. But what does that mean exactly? Well, the term metaverse is just a vague way of describing virtual worlds. It's not even purely VR, just digital worlds in general. By this definition, you could argue that Facebook or Instagram already were their own metaverses. And the word itself comes from the 1992 science fiction novel Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson. In the book, the metaverse is a version of the internet that is one singular and interconnected immersive virtual world. Although I have not personally read the novel, I gather that it has some apocalyptic and dystopian elements to it. And according to a summary, it takes place in a future where hyperinflation has caused USD to become so worthless, and territories have been divided into franchise-organized quasi-national entities, or FOQNE, which are basically just really big businesses that run pseudo-nations, which are quite reminiscent of how current massive corporations have so much influence that they practically run nations. The people from this world use the metaverse as a form of escape from the reality they find themselves in. But even in the metaverse, it's far from idyllic. For example, there is a form of classism. People who don't have their own private access to the metaverse can use public terminals, which lets them in but gives them low-quality avatars, and there's a social stigma that follows around with that. It's a little striking that a lot of these concepts from a 90s novel are stuff that are extremely relevant today, but that is no coincidence, as a lot of our internet is modeled directly by people who took inspiration from the Stevenson novel. In our own digital life, we do experience discrimination based on cosmetic access, for example. Kids all over the world engage in their own metaverses in the form of multiplayer games such as Roblox, Fortnite and Minecraft, just to mention the few big ones. It's a fun and exciting way to interact with both friends and people that you've never met before. And Zuckerberg is correct to claim that the metaverse does connect people, and that goal of connecting humanity can be great, if it wasn't for the fact that you do have to get money from somewhere. In Minecraft case, they gain money from you buying the application in itself, and the game also contains a couple in-game purchases. Whilst Roblox and Fortnite are free on paper, and therefore relies heavier on the in-game purchases of cosmetics and other applications. I have not played those two, and we could definitely critique these companies for advertising to a predominantly young audience, placing really cool cosmetics behind a paywall, which can lead to a culture of bullying the people who owns less. There's even a whole discussion about playing games as a free-to-play or being pay-to-win. Just the fact that we have these terms and social associations along with these three words might be a sign that even our own metaverses are played with classist ideals. But that's not really the point of this video essay. What is on point is that Meta launched a platform focusing on social interaction called Horizon Worlds in 2022. Admittedly, it's not their most profitable product. Meta had expected around an average of 300,000 users, but by October the same year they had only gotten about 200,000 monthly users. That is still a large amount of people, but quite lacking for a company that has 3 billion monthly users on other platforms. Meta as a company seems entirely free, so where did they get their money from? Well, following the court readings after the Cambridge Analytica scandal, this has become a well-known fact that they get their money from personalized advertising based on our digital footprint, aka selling our personal information. Now, what information could a virtual world give them? Well, a study from US Berkeley and a thing I cannot pronunciate, Technische Universität München, illustrates how much personal information someone can gather from just a VR headset, using some direct knowledge, indirect knowledge, and AI assistance. They can get your ethnicity, your age, height, potential visual impairment, and other really sensitive information about you or your economic standing. A company that sells the ideal of social interaction relies heavily on user trust. When that trust has been breached, it will lose interaction and influence over the market. That is not to say that other tech giants are any better, but in Meta's case, they've been way more vocal about wanting to connect the world, branding themselves as a company that can unite humanity. Meta wants you to stay on their platform. They want you to be their product. And for that, they need to stay afloat with new technologies such as VR and AR before someone gets control over the market before them. This is their only way as a company to survive, after all. It's a part of their business model. With me personally, the biggest issue with Meta isn't its shady business practices. It's the fact that it's trying to have a monopoly on social interaction. I believe having one corporation with so much power is a recipe for disaster no matter what. It means that either Meta will flourish and Zuckerberg will become one of the most powerful men in the universe. Or one mistake is made and it destroys multiple platforms where people have invested large parts of their social lives into. They've rebranded themselves as future visionaries in order to put their hands on the VR and AR market, using terms like meta and the metaverse without any thoughts on how it might heighten the negative consequences that Facebook and Instagram already have, such as its polarizing algorithmic systems and questionable personal data dealings. So, what consequences does this rebrand and a future meta-based metaverse have? That depends entirely on how the company will move forward. The rebrand did work to some extent to humanize the company after all, and the consensus on Mark Zuckerberg has become way more positive than it was after the first Trump election that really heightened the discussion about algorithms and weakening democracy. We currently live in a digital age where information is so fragmented based on which side of the algorithm you find yourself in. So I can see two options with the metaverse. Number one, people start using it as an alternative for real-world socialization, but it's still filtered through an algorithm, therefore losing even more contact with different people, polarizing our worlds to a new extreme, where all our data works to give us exactly what we want and never challenge us, along with a heightened discrimination based on what cosmetics and terminal you are using, leading to an even harsher divide between economic classes. Or, number two, it's an open world platform where people from all over the world can access and there's no filtering. Our information doesn't get stolen, and we all have fun together with people we'd normally never talk to. To me, this seems like the more idealized version, and therefore I don't believe higher-ups in Meta will decide it's profitable enough. Meaning that I believe the first option is more likely, but you never know. There are no set-in-stone laws about VR and AR. The internet is quite a lawless world, and for all we know, Meta might just be the thing that brings society together under some sort of anarcho-capitalist society, just like in the novel. I personally doubt this, but who knows. Note that when I say anarcho in this case, I am not talking about devoid of leadership. I am using the definition of anarchy as in no government. It would by every technicality be ruled by the higher-ups in Meta, and overseen by Zuckerberg himself, which means we could also kind of define this hypothetical future as an internet oligarchy as well, where the few controls the social future of the masses. Doesn't sound very idyllic now, does it? Still, I find it quite odd that Zuckerberg and other tech companies would willingly emulate the world of Snow Crash. To quote a CNBC article written after the rebrand, if Meta fulfills all of Stevenson's prognostications, its metaverse might not be such an idyllic place to spend the future. Now, imagine a world where all our social interaction is controlled by the singular platform that can only be accessed through the newest tech. Where would that leave the people who can't afford such luxuries? Would socializing become locked behind a paywall? And would all those who can't pay that price become shunned out of the open social discussions? Would they not be allowed to participate in democracy anymore?